Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Abdullah Samir podcast. And today I am joined by special guest Rose. Rose, how's it going?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
So, for those of you who are new here, I have this now on podcast format. So, check it out on your favorite podcasting platform, whether it's Stitcher, iTunes, whatever you like. You can actually listen to this on there. So if it's easier for you rather than on YouTube, this is the alternative platform. It's usually posted a couple hours after the fact. So if you haven't subscribed to that, please do subscribe on there, and you'll get notified for when the new episodes come out. So enough about that. Episode 64. How's it going, Rose?
I am feeling good, a bit cold over here, but I do have my jacket next to me. So if I do get colder, I'll pop that on. So yeah.
Nice. It's cold here too. It's Canada. It's getting cold now. It's summer is over, and it was a good summer. Mostly staying at home summer, I guess, which could have been better, but that's the way the world goes nowadays. So let's get started. Let's get into it. So can you tell us a little bit more about your background?
Yeah, so I am from Singapore, born and bred there, grew up there as well. My family, so I am Malay Muslim. My family is, so usually the Muslims in Singapore are mostly Sunni Muslims, which is also with Malaysia and Indonesia. Most in that region are Sunni Muslims. But we do have Shia Muslims as well, but they are in a minority. What else can I say or talk about in terms of my family background?
Like a religious family?
Yes. So in Singapore, we have, well, the Muslim label, or I would say, people who are Muslims. There are different levels or tiers, I would say, in Singapore. There are the religious ones, or I would say there's the religious ones who in the eyes of a Singaporean would be considered as normal Muslims, which are the ones who they pray 5 times a day, practice Islam as per usual, that's how it is. And then and normally these people, like myself and my family, would wear the hijab, like the women. And then there's also the religious, Muslims. There's this stigma of being religious and then being normal. I don't know how to place it. It's in terms of being religious, it's really going to, for example, instead of going to a normal public school, you go to an actual madrasa that's 5 days, they go there as their normal education instead of going to a madrasa once a week or something like that. So in this sort of schools, the 5 days a week, the school that they would choose, madrasas.
Yep.
They, on top of the normal education that they would normally study in Singapore, like science, math, all of this, adding on to that would be the Islamic studies. So this would be, if you know someone who is studying in this way, you'll be like, whoa, they're really in a more religious, more intense family, I would say, in terms of the application of Islamic beliefs.
Are they are those is it a lot of people that are very religious like that, or are they a minority, would you say?
I would say that they are in a minority, but I have to say that I did not really mix so much with this crowd. Yeah, because it's you gotta be either in a madrasa school in order to have that sort of connection. So for me, I did not really see a lot of that during my time in Singapore. So
you were more you went to normal school and all that, but you wore hijab. Your family was would you say your family was deeply religious, prayed 5 times a day, all of that?
Yeah, normal Muslims, pray 5 times a day, read the Quran, pay zakat, fast, or in Singapore you say puasa, during the Ramadan, and for my family would go for the start of the Islamic calendar
Yeah.
Like, and then there would be some sort of like festivity or like prayers that you can do.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. So we would go to this sort of events, I would say. And then there are like the other tier of Muslims where, their family are not so strict. They would, pray, but they won't particularly go to the mosque to do like these extra prayers and stuff like that. Like to them, it's not really a priority. So you have that, and usually in this sort of families, they don't like the parents don't put this like onus on their daughters to wear the hijab.
Oh yeah.
Whereas for my family, I started young, like to wear like the training hijab, and in Malay it's called anak tudung. So it's just basically like a small scarf, head scarf.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so
it's the
like
one that has a hole in it already, right? You just pull on top.
you just put it on top. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it's like the most simplest and easy, way to get a kid to be like, yeah, what's up? I mean, I'm ready. I'm going to school, or I'm going out. So.
And what age is that like usually started at?
For me, it started around. Because I was also going to madrasa like once a week, so then I would wear that. But like, training, like practicing this, started around the age of 5, 6.
Jeez, it's pretty young, eh?
Yeah.
It's interesting that Muslim families tend to start the daughters wearing hijab, which is at an age where it doesn't really matter because you're just a child, right? Really speaking, right? And yet they complain about, sexualizing, non-Muslim sexualizing women, but isn't the hijab, do you think that the hijab is a sort of sexualizing of a woman as well, or like a young child even?
I feel that for me, that they shouldn't be, or I would say like, this practice should not be coming into place when a child is still young, because they have yet to understand why they have to wear this. Sometimes the tactic is that, oh, you should wear this, otherwise you might go to hell. This sort of words.
Yeah.
It's not really great for children to hear,
Yeah.
Or for example, like especially coming to the age of puberty, then this would be, I would suppose this would be more in terms of like the Malaysian side of things, because they in normal schools they are allowed to wear hijab, but then in Singapore, if you are in like a normal public school, essentially because Singapore is a secular country, they don't allow this. Like they don't allow like for their children to wear hijab. Like this is not the case. There was like a case, like I don't know, I think in the 90s or something, or early 2000s, where a Muslim family wanted their kid to wear the hijab to school, but then the school was like, no, you can't, because it's not it's not permitted. So there was like a big hoo-ha about it, but then eventually it kind of died away. And so even still now, like you're not allowed to wear this hijab in school.
For young kids, you mean, like, but not like teenagers could wear?
No. Even in teenagers, for example, in Singapore we have primary school, which is 6 to 12, and then secondary school is 13 till, depending on 16 or 17. So in this case, even during that time, you're a teenager, after puberty, you're not allowed to wear. Only after, for example, you like if you go into junior college, then you still have to like follow the school rules because they have uniforms essentially. Singapore, everyone has uniforms. It's only if you go to, for example, to take a polytechnic course, after your secondary school education. If you go to polytechnic, then from there, everyone wears whatever they want. You can wear the hijab if you want to. So that's fine. But if you go to JC, junior college, then in that sense, you have to wear the uniform and not, be able to wear the hijab if you want to. So that's like how it is in Singapore.
So how do Muslim families like reconcile that? So like in your case, for example, you left Islam. We didn't get to you leaving Islam yet, but you left Islam 3 years ago. So you're an
Mhm.
adult now.
Mhm.
You had to leave, Singapore. We'll talk about that as well.
Mhm.
But for people to understand the background and for me to understand the background, because my experiences in Canada are very different.
Mhm.
Okay, so maybe we can compare that a bit. But
Oh yeah.
just for me to understand, especially, so you didn't wear hijab to school, but you wore it at home. Like I don't get that.
Yeah. So the way that it works, for example, is you don't wear the hijab when you're in school, but let's say you go home and then after that you want to go out, then you have to wear it. Yeah, it's like, as long as you're not in school, you're not gonna be wearing it because it's against the school rules, right?
That's
So
so weird.
it's really weird, right? Because for me, I understand that, for example, in the UK or Canada,
Yeah.
you guys don't really have like a uniform
Yeah, well,
kind of
they
going
do
on in
have,
school.
like, my son goes to Catholic school and they have uniform, but they're
Yeah.
allowed to wear hijab there. I mean,
Interesting.
frankly speaking, there's probably, I don't want to say for sure there's more Muslims in the Catholic school
Mhm.
than but there's probably more Muslims. There's probably more. It's close. Either there's more Muslims or there's a very large number of Muslims compared to Christians in the school.
Mhm.
The reason they go to Catholic school is we have this weird. There's some historical reason why, I don't know why, but there's a historical reason why the Catholic system is funded. So we have two systems. We have a Catholic system and we have like another public school system, just a general. And you can choose to put your kid in either one of them. Both of them, you don't pay any fees. But the only difference is in the Catholic school, you have to take a religion class every year, which is a Christian class. But again, because it's so multicultural, it's like kind of,
Getting to
it's
know.
wishy-washy kind of. It's not like it's religion, but it's also like they don't force you to do anything you're not comfortable with, and
Mm.
but it's still also as part of the as part of the secularism here, everyone's allowed to wear hijab even at school. That's considered like a personal choice. If you wear a crucifix,
Mhm.
I'm kind of shocked to hear that in Singapore you can't wear
Oh yeah,
hijab
yeah,
in school.
yeah.
So the really religious Muslims must not send their kids to school then, because then they don't want their daughter going out without hijab, right?
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like that's why we have the madrasas.
Oh yeah.
And so in a way that kind of resolves
Oh
the,
yeah.
the thing, but then also madrasas are actually quite expensive.
Oh
So for
yeah.
me, like when I do meet someone who do go to madrasas, like for me, I'm like, this person or this family must be quite well to do, in that sense, because they're able to do, like send the kids to this place, which are usually a bit more expensive than like the schooling.
Oh yeah.
Because madrasas, I believe they are usually private. So yeah.
We have those we have Islamic schools here too,
Mhm.
and they're not okay, it depends from province to province, but in Ontario where I live, the government doesn't pay for anything. So basically what happens is you're paying like anywhere from like I mean this was a long time ago, it was like 300, but now it's closer to $1,000 a month per
Mm.
child.
Wow.
So that's like a lot of money.
Mhm.
Most people, most working families cannot afford $1,000 a month. $1,000 a
Mhm.
month is like the rent.
Yeah,
Actually, the
exactly.
rent is more than that. So it's like probably like 60% to 70% of what average person pays for rent. Average person's paying like 1,500 to maybe about 1,500 for rent, let's say for a
Mhm.
2 bedroom. So this is like doubling, if you're paying 1,500 for rent and then you're paying another $1,000 for one or two kids for Islamic school. I mean, that's
Mhm.
a lot of money. So my wife didn't work. And so when I was Muslim, I actually put my kids in Islamic school because
Mhm.
even though that I didn't have any daughters at the time, it wasn't because of that, but it was just we were hearing these things from scholars saying don't put your kids in Islamic school. You want to don't put your kids in public school. Sorry,
Yeah.
you want to make sure your kids get the proper Islamic education.
Mhm.
And so we put the kids in these schools where they do all the classes and they have Islam and Arabic and stuff like that. But in retrospect, I think it was a waste of money to do that, because the schools I put my kids in, they weren't as good in my opinion as a public school system, because of course they were privately funded. They were not, they had they had donations as well, a lot of donations, and they were connected to the mosque. And the main reason wasn't for academic excellence, it was
Mhm.
to keep your kids away from haram, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So but at the end of the day, I think even the Islamic schools, when you put your kids in Islamic school, you still have that same struggle of this. The kids are going to be kids. They're all
Yeah.
going to get into bad things and drugs and music,
Mhm.
and TV, the terrible music. The worst problem of all, music. Kids are watching
Oh,
TV.
damn music.
It's like those old Christian fundies that they don't want the kids playing cards, and like my wife's grandpa, he thinks playing cards are from the devil or something, and like that generation of TV is
Yeah.
bad, and anyways, so back to your story. Let's so that's interesting. That's really surprising. So you grew up Muslim, religious family, and what happened? Like, how did you end up what made you, so you found my blog apparently, so can
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah.
tell us about that?
Oh my God. So, give you a bit of a background about how I was as a Muslim. Um, yeah, definitely prayed 5 times a day, especially during polytechnic. That was when you can wear your hijab to school, and pretty much you are on your own time schedule. This is what you can do. And for me, when I was in polytechnic, my classes would be kind of sometimes ending at 4 p.m. So around the Zohor time, that is when I would have to like pray at school. So in that sense, when other we would have our breaks, and for me, I would spend that break time eating and then taking wudu and going for my prayers in a staircase area of the school, where no one is walking about. So that was how I was as a Muslim before I left. Yeah, and when I started to have doubts, well, this is the thing about my story, which is like for me, I did all the practice and everything like this. Also, one, it's for the religion, yeah, and two, it's also for my family, because they put so much importance on it that I felt like, yeah, I need to do this, And when I felt like, sometimes I didn't really want to do it, I say like, no, I must do this. I need to keep myself stronger to the faith. So that was also one of the reasons why I started to pray in the school facility. Just to keep on that iman, strong. So for this, when I decided to really take a look at my life and see what is it I'm unhappy with, because at the time as well I was just like I did not really feel happy about being, I would say, in a place where I could not be myself. And I am the sort of person who loves music. I love going to gigs. I love hanging out with my friends at night as well. You're not doing anything, you're just hanging out with your friends.
Yeah.
And sometimes that
Just
can
going
be like,
out, just going,
yeah,
being a teenager,
yeah,
living your life.
exactly. Yeah. So sometimes that like can crop up to be an issue, but I'm like the last child, so sometimes I do get my leeway. Yeah. So for me, once I I would go to gigs with my hijab on. Like that's not a problem for me. Like I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
And like it's really nice to be experiencing what you love, exploring new things. But then there are times, for example, when my mom really would be like is saying the comments, like she's not directing at me, but mostly like indirectly, like saying like, oh, people who go to concerts or people who go to and they're dancing, like like saying it as if it's a very
Horrible thing, right?
yeah, very horrible thing, like
Yeah.
it's so bad, like how
Yeah.
could you something
Yeah.
like this. So like even though it's not directed at me,
Yeah.
I felt like, oh, like maybe I should be doing this. It's
Yeah.
like guilt tripping essentially. Yeah, so like she didn't do it that often, but for me it just kind of rings in my head,
Yeah.
like maybe I'm doing something wrong. But eventually I was just like, let's do an experiment on how I feel about the hijab. So I started to go out without the hijab on. Yeah, this was a very difficult decision and very difficult. I would say to execute this to me was really scary because, especially the first time, and I had a panic attack, and this was my first ever panic attack. After that, I never really gotten any, so this
Okay.
is like the only time I've had one. And when I went out without my hijab, what I would do is that I would go out with it because maybe a family member is at home, so I just have to wear it when I go out. And then I would go to a nearby shopping center and go to the washroom, take it off, and all. But I would always have like a hat with me, just in case, just to cut if someone notices me or if I feel like someone's looking at me, I'll just look down. So in that sense, I didn't want to be caught. Like that fear of, oh, I cannot be caught without my hijab on is so in your face that you feel like, why
It's
do I
terrifying.
feel like, yeah, it's really terrifying.
Yeah.
And it really makes you think like, why do I feel this way? So when I was thinking about this, like, why do I feel this way? Why is it that I feel that my hair is a sin, like showing my skin is something wrong? And it's not like you're walking around in a bikini. Like, obviously, you're gonna be like people be like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" Even normal people will be like, "What is going on?" So in this sense, I was just like asking myself these questions, like, why do I feel this way when it's just my hair? Why do I feel so wrong about my body? So I had to question this. Before I did the experiment, I was like, yeah, I didn't really question the idea of wearing a hijab. Like, why should we do this? Yeah, you should do this because you want to cover up your aurat. Okay, yeah, sure, I'll take it. But then after I did the experiment, I understood that feeling of fear and how being so uncomfortable without it made me feel, and then it made me try to figure out like, why do I feel uncomfortable? So that's when I kind of started to go deeper and deeper into questioning really my faith and the religion that I grew up in. So from there, there was this one time, like the first time I'm going out, I met my friend. She is a Muslim, but she doesn't really practice it. So like she's like, yeah, food, it's cool, like it's not a problem. Like I don't find it a problem at all. So she really helped me when we were kind of like close to my workplace. And in my workplace, I wore the hijab. But then we were kind of like walking around that was close to my workplace. And I knew that if someone from the workplace kind of like or saw me without my hijab, they'll be like, talking about it. So for me, that fear of other people talking about it when I'm not ready is really scary. So at that time, I was in a convenience store near the workplace, and I really had a hard time breathing, and I didn't know what was happening. Like I was just like really, my heart was pounding, really sweating, and my friend was like, are you okay? Like just breathe, okay? Like really helping me out. Because I was having a panic attack. Only then I knew what it was.
This just showed like this is how difficult it is to take off the hijab. It's not at all an easy thing at all. And I know my wife actually, even though she's not from a Muslim family, but even for her, just with her friends, and it was very difficult, and she was still Muslim at the time. But it's tough to take off the hijab. So you were still Muslim at the time, and you were just thinking of not. So you were still Muslim, but you just wanted to kind of express yourself. You didn't feel like you wanted to wear the hijab anymore. And even as a Muslim, this was like incredibly tough.
Yeah, for me, that hijab, because for me, the hijab is an identity. And even before, like, me living Islam, like when I am looking at other Muslims, especially Muslim women, if they're wearing the hijab, I'm like, hey, we have a connection, something like this. And so that's how, so this is the thing that I don't really like about the way that the dynamic is like in I would say in Singapore or in other countries, really, from what I've
Mhm.
seen,
Mhm.
is that if you're a Muslim woman who's wearing the hijab and you want to take it off because you don't feel like it anymore, you don't really want to wear it anymore, um, personal reasons or reasons that, for example, maybe it's too hot, right? Like you don't really
Yeah.
want to wear it anymore. Other Muslims who are either people who are wearing the hijab or people who are not wearing the hijab, men, sometimes even non-Muslims would be questioning it, like, why are you removing it? So in this sense, I don't really like that
Yeah.
identity, labeling this person like, oh, she's wearing it because she is, what is that word? She is supposed to be promoting Islam,
Mhm.
and by the act of removing it, it seems like there's something wrong with Islam, right? When
Oh
in
yeah.
quotes, there's something
Yeah.
wrong in Islam, but
They,
so
they
this.
they're taking it as they're taking your hijab as a political statement, basically.
Mhm, mhm,
Which is
yeah,
you're saying that it's not a political statement for many Muslim women. It's just a decision, a personal decision. Just like, for example, I mean, we can look at Muslim men. Some Muslim men, they stop praying. Some of them will grow their beard for religious reasons. Although the thing about the beard is it's easier as a man because a lot of non-Muslims have beards, but no non-Muslims wear hijab.
yeah,
So, unfortunately with the hijab, it's something that's unique to Muslim women that nobody else does. So when you take it off, suddenly everyone's like, oh, why is she doing that? Whereas with
mhm,
the beard, nobody cares if you shave your beard. As a Muslim, yeah, some people might care, but then there's also a lot of Muslims that don't have a beard. So it's more difficult as a Muslim woman to
mhm.
take that step.
Yeah, I would agree a lot in that sense as well. And in terms of art, right? Since we're talking about this, what I've noticed is that there's a lot of hypocrisy in terms of whether or not a person should be covering up. So in a lot of regions, I would say that why, like, people will question like, why is she not covering up?
Mhm.
Or even for like a Muslim woman who's not even wearing the hijab, like if they're just wearing a t-shirt and pants, just pretty normal, people will still ask like, oh, why aren't you, wearing the hijab? Asking these questions. But for example, let's say a man who is walking around without his shirt, his belly
Yeah.
is showing.
Yeah.
He's wearing, well, let's say he's wearing long pants, but his belly is showing. That's
Mhm.
part of the aura for
Yeah.
men. And let's say that he's not, like he's in the company of people that he shouldn't be doing that. People are not going to question him, right? Like people are not going to be like, hey, shouldn't you be wearing like a shirt or something? Yeah, people are not going to say that. So in that sense, there's a lot of hypocrisy towards women, in terms of the aurat in Islam. Yeah.
Mm. So,
Mhm.
so you're saying there's a sort of double standard here where
Yeah, yeah.
women are actually considered that, oh, you need to wear hijab, you need to dress like this, you can't wear like a t-shirt, you have to dress, but like a man can get away with showing his aura. Aura means
Mhm.
basically the part of the body that you have to cover in
Mhm.
Islam. For men, it's only between the knees and like the belly button or something, but for women,
Yeah.
it's like the whole body, including the hands. Some people even say the face. I mean, although
Well,
that's a minority opinion,
yeah, yeah.
but basically for women, it's much tougher. Yeah, for women.
Yeah.
So you had this panic attack, you had this struggle in taking off the hijab, but did you ended up taking off the hijab after that? And how did that
Yeah.
affect your family? Like, what happened?
Yeah, yeah. So the reason why I was going out like once in a while without a hijab. So this was like how I wanted to understand my feelings and understanding of Islam, and whether or not I want to continue with it, which is through this experience. So once I had that like panic attack, I was like, oh, this is doesn't feel good. But after a while, I got over that, and I was like, you know, reflecting on this and asking myself all these other questions. But in the meantime, I was also, in a way, living a double life. So sometimes I would go out with friends without hijab, and then I would go to work with
Mm,
the hijab, and making appearances to my family, because if they knew that I wasn't wearing the hijab, uh, they would be for me, I felt that it was better to essentially like do this experiment myself, because I don't want it to be affected by like, you know, external influences, for example, my family, to make me like take a step back, because I knew like that would just totally like
That would ruin the whole thing.
yeah,
That would ruin
exactly,
the
the
that would
personal experience.
yeah. So you wanted to have an authentic experience and
Yeah.
decide for yourself
Mm-hmm.
without external, you know, like you know, family pressure kind of pushing you back towards what they wanted versus what you wanted. You wanted to make the decision that was best for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you already have like cultural, societal factors that is already kind of in your head, right? So it doesn't like, you really have that. So you don't really want an immediate family reaction to that sort of
Yeah,
experience. Yeah.
yeah. Well, you're trying to make baby steps towards living an authentic life. Already your family is kind of putting you in a situation where you have to live a double life. Not because you want to live a double life. Of course, you want to tell your family, you want to tell everybody, and everybody I know would, like, for example, left Islam, or, you know, took off a hijab, or, you know, whatever. Even let's say the gay, and the family doesn't know. They want to tell their family members. It's just that sometimes the consequences are too high, and the cost of telling them, it's just not worth it. So they just have to live a double life, and nobody likes living a double life.
It sucks. It sucks.
Yeah, we all want to be accepted for who we are. We want people to know and love us, and that's what intimacy is. Intimacy is to expose yourself and who you are and all of your weaknesses to someone else. And when you don't have that with even your own parents, and you have to hide things from them, that sucks, basically, right?
Yeah. It really, I mean, you don't want to be lying to them, right? Like, no one wants to lie to a family member about your own authentic self. But if you're doing the risk assessment and you see that if I were to do this now, like, they would probably, I don't know, throw you out and all the horrible things, then it's really difficult to take those steps comfortably, or you know, make it into something that's comfortable for yourself, because you feel like, oh, it's like a hard choice, right? Oh, should I live my authentic self, or should I be disowned by my own family, right? It's really difficult. It's a difficult choice.
Exactly. Yeah. So just to remind anyone that's just joining now, I'm speaking to Rose, Fatally Honest. She has a YouTube channel as well, which is linked right in the title. You can just click on the name Fatally Honest. It'll take you to the channel. Do subscribe to her and support her. She makes some really nice, interesting videos, not just on Islam, but on culture, on sexuality, on different things like that. So do check out her channel. And she's an ex-Muslim woman from Singapore, no longer in Singapore. We're going to talk about that. So those of you who are just joining, that's who I'm speaking with. So let's continue from there. So what ended up happening after that? Like, so you took off the hijab. Did you tell your family, or what were you doing?
Yeah, so I really remember this day. I after like a few times going out with a hijab and stuff like this, it took a while. Like I think I started like taking off the hijab in 2016, and then it's like what, half a year process for me, or 8 months, something like this process for me. And I read a lot more about Islam, not just, you know, reading the Quran, which is in Arabic, and you don't know what you're reading. It's very, you know, so the connection of understanding the meaning is difficult there. So what I did was to read translations. So this is the part where a lot of, for example, my Muslims would say like, oh, you shouldn't be reading the translations. Maybe they're translating. Yeah. So
because over here, it's actually encouraged to read the translation. Over there, you're saying in the Muslim countries, actually Singapore is not a Muslim country, but like you're saying over there, the culture is that you just read it in Arabic only.
Yeah, that was like my I would say, like in the madrasa they would have like, you know, they have the all the surahs in the book, but then they would have like Malay translations on it. And for me, I'm like, sometimes it just doesn't make sense. So like in that sense, I wasn't really, like, when I was young, I wasn't really interested in like understanding the surahs at all. So okay, we have to, like, especially in madrasa, what they would do is that they would essentially ask you to, you study fiqh, studying Tawhid, Sirah, and a part of it is to learn Arabic, but it really depends on like the module that you're taking. It's like really basic, so like saying like, learning how to say like I, or because Arabic has they have like the different ways of saying like for him and for her.
Him. Arabic is a tough language to learn.
Very tough language. So for me, when I was younger, what I would do is like, if we were having the examination, I would be like looking at my friends like paper, I'm like, hey, can you help me out? I don't know what this is. But when what they would do is essentially they would ask you to memorize the surah so that you can use it for prayers, and you have to essentially pass like how many surahs like during your year in the madrasa, and then be able to like say, yes, I've memorized this, and then you would then be able to use it during your when you're praying. And memorization is not my best skill at all. So I had like a real struggle with it. And another thing that madrasas would do, this started later on, like when after my puberty and stuff, is that during the times, if your schooling is within the time of Zuhur or Asar, especially for the girls, what they would do is that if you're having like your period, you have to tell your teacher, and you have to tell them, hey, I'm having my period now. So they're going to take down that you're having your period now, and then if you if you were to say that you're having your period again, like the next 2 weeks, they'll be like, oh, your schedule is out of whack. What is what's happening? So that's quite strict. Like for me, I was just like, what is happening here? So
this is the school you said?
So this is the madrasa. Like
that's intrusive, eh?
That's really intrusive. Like I mean, like I understand, like, okay, maybe this person wants to use the excuse of periods, but like it's still very like, what,
that's crazy. That's insane. So you started reading the Quran in Malay or English, or what
so like what I would do is that when I was having, like, I didn't understand or like did not really find that surah is just really weird, I would go to English translations and read them, be like, okay, I've also, like, during that time I was also reading more about Christianity, reading more about Judaism. And in our school, of course, they taught us that, okay, these are all the Abrahamic faiths and Islam is the last one, so it's the truest religion, like it's the true religion, so you should follow it. It's the last one in the book, in the series. So in this case, for me, I was like, okay, I was taking it for granted that it is the true religion. But once I was reading all of this text in English and see the similarities within Christianity, within Judaism, I was like, how can this be the truest scripture who's coming from God? And you're just reading a bit more and more and more, and in the end, I just felt so tired of it all, because you get to a point where, okay, all of this like words and stories, really, okay, like fine, but then you're making laws based on that. Based on the time where the time is just so different to modern current world. How is it possible that the law hasn't been changed accordingly to the times that we have right now? And why do we still have to adhere to this? Like for me, as an ex-Muslim, I would say that it's fine if you want to pray 5 times a day. Like, I have no problems with Muslims at all. Like, you do what you want to do as a Muslim, as long as you're not A, harming another person, B, what's that called, restricting someone else's life choices. Like if another Muslim wants to remove their hijab, then another Muslim shouldn't be saying like, oh no, you shouldn't be doing that, you know. But unfortunately, the way that Islam is right now is not very, I would say, open or friendly towards change. I mean, I'm not very particularly sure on how it is there in Canada, like liberal Muslims and stuff like this. Because in Singapore, I would say that if you do, I mean, you can have liberal Muslims, but in terms of important topics like FGM, for example, it's not really something that is widely talked about, unfortunately. So yeah.
So in Canada, we have a lot of liberal Muslims. I don't know. It's kind of hard to define what liberal Muslim is, because some people are liberal, but they still support weird Islamic, like bad things in Islam, right? I'd say majority though, like truly speaking, majority don't pray 5 times a day. And I think this is in all countries, not just Canada. But in Canada, like my family is exceptionally liberal. We're from Kenya. And they didn't even mind that I left Islam. They don't even care. They're like, not don't care, but like some of them, the more religious ones were like crying and sad, but the less religious ones are like, it's up to you. You can do what you want. And, Indian Muslims tend to be more liberal than Pakistani Muslims. That's what I found. So my family goes from India. And yeah, like you were saying, when it comes to, leading the translation, there was a comment someone left that the ustad or the teacher doesn't care if you understand, they just want you to read it. When you start reading it for yourself, you see a totally different image, and you get a totally different idea. So before we continue, I just want to say thank you so much to David Wood. He just gave an extremely generous donation for my wife. More than the biggest donation I've ever got. Actually, this is crazy. Like, this is above and beyond. And David Wood, honestly, you are such a kind person, and I really do appreciate you and all you did. Also, you helped me leave Islam, and you had an influence on, obviously I don't believe in Christianity, but you are truly, honestly, a good person. I truly believe that. And I'm not just saying that because you gave me a donation. And there's other people who I won't go on the platforms and won't work with them, but I do work with David Wood, because I do think that he hits the mark over and over again. David Wood, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I had to say that. Sorry to interrupt a conversation, Rose, but
it's good.
This is
insane. MVP.
This is crazy. I really do appreciate it. So, and courtesy of Mohammed Hijab, who sent me a new ton of financial supporters. Yeah, that's funny how that sort of how that happened. Trying to get people financially. This is what happens to ex-Muslims and activists who speak against Islam. They try to hit you where it hurts the most, which is financially, because you depend on this. When you start doing this full time, you need the money to continue doing it, because this is what you do for a living now. This is your life, right? You're actually building content. You're creating content for people to leave Islam, or at least to know, to be a little bit more skeptical and not necessarily go down too deep into the rabbit hole. Yesterday, David Wood was having a conversation with a Muslim convert, and he was just giving him things to think about, because you never know. Sometimes if you don't have that pushback, what we're going to find is the dawah and the Islamic apologetics is going to shape the world. And on top of it, the high birth rates. We're going to end up in a world where we have so many, everything is going to be Islam. And we don't do we want to live in a world where, this strict system that controls everything in your life, including like the lives of non-Muslims? We really want that worldview? No, we don't want that. We want secularism. We want freedom of religion. We want to be able to blaspheme. We want people to be able to leave Islam or leave any religion, frankly speaking. Choose their own path, right? Just like you wanted to choose your own path. So just want to say thank you to David Wood for that. I really appreciate it. So back to your story now. So when you were reading these other stories of other religious books, did you find them to be? Did you feel like all religions are false, or what did you find yourself inclining to any of these other religions like Christianity or Judaism? What was your perspective there?
In terms of the stories, reading I found a lot of similarities. It wasn't that I found any inclination to any one religion after reading, but just like, okay, it's for me. I feel like it's more of a web of history, really, and history can be changed at a person's whim or an organization's whim. And for me, I would say that I'm not at all religious. I don't have any like feeling towards wanting to believe in a religion. I would call myself an agnostic. Really, for example, I was listening to your interview about what is it called, Muslim identity, like the ex-Muslim label, and I was listening that there's I forgot his name, but he calls himself an agnostic Muslim, which
Reason on faith.
I think so. Yeah.
One. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was like, I would say that a lot of people do have that labeling in their hearts, but they don't call themselves that. They just call themselves Muslims. Like they don't want to. They don't want to out themselves by saying, "Oh, I don't think I really believe in Islam."
Yeah.
Like they don't want to out themselves like that because they understand like that would not be a good thing. Like it's not normalized yet, so that's the thing, right? That even like I saw a comment earlier on where it says, "Oh yeah, Malays are, they would seem as a person who is a liberal Muslim, but once you touch on the things like, for example, the Prophet Muhammad, or like other things like eating pork, then they would be going on like full Muslim mode and telling you like, oh, what are you talking about? This is not Islam. How can you say such things to me when they themselves are like, for example, drinking,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the weirdest thing ever. I always had a struggle with that. I don't understand people like that. I believe, and I think you were probably in a similar situation. If Islam is true, then I need to do everything that Islam says, because what's going to happen to me otherwise? And not only I need to do everything that Islam says for myself, I need to make sure that everybody else does that for their own good, for their own protection from this God that will punish them. And so like when in Ramadan in Canada, I used to look at people eating, and I used to be like, oh my God, all these people, they're doing all these sins and they're going to be punished for this. And I felt bad for them, right? I didn't hate them. I didn't have that perspective, but I felt bad for them. And the same thing you were saying, that when you have it's strange, you have people that they don't do any of these things, yet they still supposedly believe in Islam. It's very weird, right? Like, I mean, maybe they are a little bit agnostic and they really a little bit skeptical, but they don't want to admit it to themselves.
Yeah. They don't want to question it properly. I think that's the thing, and I think it's for them maybe it's scary to even like question something that their family has possibly taught them in one way or another. So I suppose in that sense, they don't want to break the culture in that way, the way that they've grown up. Even though it is very clearly stated, like if you do this stuff, you will go to hell, right? For me as well, when I was a Muslim, like if someone were to tell me like, oh, drinking alcohol and everything, like I'll be like, I'm so sure about that. Like, maybe you need to think about your life a little bit or something like this. Because for me, especially with my parents, like the way I was brought up, like if you, like I was, in terms of like sins that was totally like a no was, I mean, in Singapore, you can listen to music. Like for my family, it's not a problem. But alcohol, like pork, non-halal food, like you need to make sure that whatever you're eating is halal.
Yeah.
Like if there's no halal stamp, like certified by the MUIS, the authority in Singapore, you're not gonna eat it. Yeah. So that's like, whereas for example, like that in Singapore there's this like night festival, but in local terms you call it a pasar malam. It's like pasar means it's like a night market essentially. So around these night markets, you'd have like people selling food and stuff like that. Sometimes people would sell, for example, like takoyaki. It's like a food from Japan, but they make there in these night markets. And people would buy, like Muslims, I would see Muslims, when I was a Muslim, I would see other Muslims like buying it from such stalls that don't even have like a certification. And
Yeah.
I'll be like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Like
Yeah.
in my heart, I really truly felt like
Yeah.
they're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
So that was the sort of like mindset that I was in as a Muslim. So I definitely understand, like the how do you kind of fit that together, like not.
It's isn't it, maybe what it is for a lot of these people, it's I want to call it a tribal thing.
Mhm.
It's become identity. Islam is an identity. So when you question Islam, even if they don't practice it themselves, they'll fight back and they'll say, no, how dare you say that, whereas they themselves are not properly practicing. But it
Yeah.
becomes, and if you push them, that's when they start to become a little bit hostile, or they can become even violent. For example, your family members who love you, you have this wall. So what happened with your family then when you started to question and all of these things? You didn't tell them yet. This came later, right?
Yeah, this came later. So like when I was, reading more and more, and of course, going through the videos, like, oh, I was like, Muslims living Islam on YouTube. And I was like, oh, and then I found like this Vice documentary. And I was like, oh, okay, there are actually Muslims who are living Islam. And it's like, okay, this is in Britain, interesting. So, for me, it was really, it's like mind-blowing that you could even live Islam. Like this was, because in my world, I was like, what, living Islam? What are you talking about? Like,
Yeah.
no such thing, right? Like, no way. There's no way. So when I was, going through this, I was like so excited. Like my heart was racing because of excitement.
Yeah.
So I was just like, wow, this is really like another world. So I watched like the Vice documentary and went to other YouTubers, for example, Zara K, and eventually I found your YouTube as well. And then from there, I went on to your site, which is incredibly helpful, especially because you come into it in a very analytical sense towards the scriptures as well as the laws, really, in regards to Islam and how it affects people.
Yeah.
So in this case, I was just reading through your blog, and I found myself really agreeing to a lot of what you were saying. And also additionally, because for me, I understood that Islam does have like branches, different branches of like the way people can practice Islam. And you come from a background that I never even realized that existed. Because for me, it's like, okay, Sunni, Shia, and then like, for example, what's it called? Like Salafi and all the different mazhabs. Yeah. So
Sufi.
yeah. So for me, that was like my idea of how it branches out, but I did not know that there was, a more subcategory of such branches of Islam. So for me, it was very interesting to see how you transitioned from one to another, and then after that to eventually leaving Islam. Yeah, and the way that your family reacted to you doing through this process actually encouraged me to eventually tell my family that like for me to just let it all out, that you don't want to be a part of Islam, because I don't want to be lying, and I don't want to be not essentially not living my authentic self anymore in this case. So when I left, I remember clearly this day. So my parents would sometimes go to their home, like they're retired, so they would go to like a place in Malaysia, and they would essentially stay there for a few days, and then they would come back. So for like medical appointments, stuff like this. So on a day where they decided to come back, I texted my mom. I said, hey, just to let you know, I'm not going to wear the hijab. Like, I didn't want to say like, hey, I'm gonna be living Islam. Like who does that over? Like I don't do that over text. Like this is something that you gotta really.
Yeah, it's like saying, "Hey, mom, I'm gonna kill myself" or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like saying that. It's like, "Hey, like yeah, you don't want to get like make her have a heart attack, right?"
Yeah, exactly. So I was just like telling her like, hey, when we come to pick you up, I'm just letting you know because I don't want to shock you that I'm not going to be wearing my hijab. And she's like, okay, ... because my mom writes that way. Like she always has like 3 dots at the end all the time. Like it doesn't matter if she's like happy or sad, it's just gonna be ... So so and then she said, okay, but can you wear something that covers your head? Like and I'm like, okay, fine. I'll wear a hat. Like she, it's like, can you please like wear like a, I don't know, like a hat or something? I'm like, yeah,
Were
sure.
you meeting in public or where were you meeting?
Yeah. So it's
Oh,
like
okay.
in public. So essentially, we will pick them up, which is in Woodlands Causeway Link area. So all the Singaporeans would know this. So we would meet there, and then we would eat at a nearby coffee shop. And yeah, I greeted them, salam them, and we went to eat. And my parents didn't really show a lot of emotions. They were just like, okay. Like I think for them it was really just a shock because like they didn't know how to process it, or they didn't know how to react to it. So they just like kind of closed up in that sense.
Were you living with them at the time or you
Yeah,
went?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. In Singapore, it's really expensive to live on your own.
Oh.
So like most people, they would only leave the family home after they get married. Like so, this is like the concept.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just really expensive in Singapore to be
Yeah.
renting and stuff. So in this case, I was still living with my parents, and
And you told them that you left Islam? What happened?
no, not at that point of time.
Okay.
So I like they were like, okay, sure, and then we just ate, and I was kind of like acting normal because I was really scared to like scare them away. I mean, I already did, but I didn't want to make it worse, right? In that sense. So went back home. Then they kind of went on as per usual. So I was like trying to figure out like how do I inform them about my decision to leave. So what I did was that I decided to make a PowerPoint presentation because like, for me, the way that I handle stressful situations is through humor. So I just like personally thought like, okay, this is like a way for me to explain to them and not like, cry without even being able to explain it to them, because it's a very emotional, I would say, thing to experience, telling your parents, religious parents, about this. So for me, I was like, okay, let's make a PowerPoint presentation of why I'm living Islam. Yeah.
Wow.
So the fact is that I like to create humor, because I'm just that sort of person, is to like put in fonts. I didn't want it to be like serious, even though it's already a serious thing. So for my sake, I was just like, okay, let's make everything Comic Sans, to make it really funny.
Oh no, Comic Sans.
Oh yes. That's the best font to use for serious talks.
That
So,
font should be banned. That it should be banned.
no.
You must be the first woman in history to make a PowerPoint presentation for her family on leaving Islam. Do you have this presentation?
I think I'm not sure, because it was with my oily old computer. I really wish I would have kept it. But I'm pretty sure it's lost.
No,
Because
that would have been amazing to show that on your channel.
I know. Yeah, I'm really upset. Actually, when I was like making the video, I was just like, oh shit, yeah, I should have kept that presentation.
Oh my. So tell us what was in it. Like what was in it?
Yeah. So first was like women's rights, because I was really like, because of the inheritance thing. I was just like, it doesn't make sense. Why is it that a woman is not getting like what she's supposed to get? Like getting like, compared to a man, like how is this even possible?
Yeah.
And so that was one. Also, I think another thing was what was it? Let me just remember.
So by this point, what you had actually left Islam completely. You had been reading a lot of blogs, like you read my blog. You were watching videos, so you had like a really good understanding of all of the bad things in Islam. Well, not all of them, but like
No.
a lot of the major points that were bothering you. Are these the reasons why you left Islam, or did you find out these things after leaving Islam? Because in my case, sometimes people ask me, well, how come you have like 10,000 arguments against Islam, but when you left Islam, you had like, I don't know, 5 or something, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, that's what happens when you research. You find more issues. You find more issues, but there's a lot of issues.
Yeah.
You don't need 10,000 issues. You just need one. Like, I think like if someone asks me for one argument, I can just give them one mistake in the Quran and it's done. It's done, right? But like if you research it, you find more. You find a lot more problems, right? So are these the issues that caused you to leave Islam, or these were the issues you wanted to present to your mom and dad? Did you want them to leave Islam too, or you just wanted them to understand you?
I just wanted them to understand me. I didn't want them to leave Islam. Like I know, to them it's a very precious thing, to be following, which I'm totally fine with. Like, as long as it doesn't like impede me from what I want to do in life, that's fine.
Yeah.
Which usually it would not. So I don't think I would ever like find me in crossroads that would be a problem. So in terms of my reasoning, yes, as you said, like when you're actually researching this, you find more and more problems, and you're like, why am I even still following this? In the beginning, you feel like for me, I wanted to leave Islam because of the restrictions, I would say, that is put on to a Muslim woman, especially the hijab and the expectations of upholding the religion, and making sure that that you are representing the religion really.
Yeah, but you took off the hijab though, so the hijab, like you already took off the hijab, so that wouldn't have why would that make you leave Islam when you already weren't wearing it?
Oh no, as in like my parents didn't know that I was sneakily removing the hijab. Like the only time that they understood that I'm not wearing the hijab anymore is when essentially I told them, like, it was like a 2-part thing. Right. So I told them I wasn't going to wear, and then after that, the presentation. So in this sense, for me, like if I were to like take a step back and kind of like branch out like the 2 scenarios that could have happened. A is that I would have removed my hijab, told my parents that I'm, not going to wear it, but still be Muslim. I think that eventually they would still want me to wear it. And if I were to get, for example, married to a person who, let's say, who is not a Muslim, that idea is still not like they won't be comfortable with it. Like they would totally want me to coax my partner to convert into Islam. So this is something that I just wasn't comfortable with. And, I was thinking in that sense, like, if I were to not leave Islam now, then no matter what sort of like decision I would do in the future, it would still kind of impact me in some way that I did not want.
But isn't it the case that you could wear hijab or not wear hijab, pray or not pray and still be Muslim? Like, to me, it seems like there was something else, not just a hijab, like something deeper that made you were questioning and like the belief system of the religion. Like, was there like a fundamental belief you didn't believe in? Like,
I would suppose so. I mean, now that you're digging deeper, I haven't, like it's been a long time since I've, got into this hate space because, it's like when you're questioning, you're really like, think more about it. So let me get back into that zone. So in this case, I would say that in terms of the fundamental belief, in terms of submitting, this is the thing that I, feel is not really something that I like. Or like, for example, the free will that you have is something that like you need to believe in God, but you also have the free will to do whatever it is to achieve, whatever that God is able to give you, right? Something like that. So in my case, like I've always believed like that whatever you do in life, in terms of like free will, eventually God will, like in terms of fate, like if something bad happened to you, it's because God wanted it to happen to you, and you have to take it, or you have to do something about it in a way that is either positive or negative for you. But essentially, you're still putting it in terms of, oh, God did this to you. Like it's not like you're the one who, how is it that you have done so many things right, in like like, let's say, like okay, maybe you want to get a, I don't know, like go to the park, something like this. You want to have a good time, and then you go and take the bus, and okay, that's fine. And then for some reason the bus got into an accident, and then like in that idea, it's like, okay, God made this accident happen.
Yeah.
So in this case, like what? I should just accept this, in this case. Then it's like, oh, maybe like it's a sign that I shouldn't be going to the park, something like this. It's like, so for me, I never really liked that sort of idea. I believe in free will, and especially in terms of that would then intertwine into this other topic, which is God is giving you problems, or God is giving you trials and tribulations because you've done something bad in the past. So you need to go through this because it's a trial by God, and you want, God is essentially like testing you, testing your strength, testing your faith. So you're like, what kind of reasoning is this? This is something that I truly don't agree with. And also in terms of, like, for example, especially in Islam, like gays or people who are non-binary, LGBTQ plus. This is something that when I was growing up, my parents were quite against. So, me growing up and understanding, like, there are some people in my school that are, lesbians. And for me, like, I didn't have a problem with this. Like, I'm totally cool. Like, I mean, and they're Muslims. I'm like, it's not a problem. Like, okay, for me, like, I didn't find anything wrong with that. But then if you really follow the scriptures or the way that Islamic law works, you just find that it's against such people. And for me, I just couldn't agree with that. And for me as well, like the hypocrisy of people saying like, oh no, we accept people who are like this, but then don't really talk about the laws, the Islamic laws about that. For me, that's really hypocritical. Like, how can you, be for LGBTQ plus, but then not even question your own faith that is against this group of people? Like, for me, I just don't agree with that.
The punishment obviously for homosexuals, at least men, I don't know about women, but is to be, thrown off the rooftops in Sunni Islam, right? So it's pretty severe punishment. So you found an inconsistency between let's call it human nature and what this religion was teaching. What about the science? Did you find issues with it? Because you said you found my blog scientific. Were there scientific issues as well at all, or was it just like you felt like this religion was incompatible with the modern world and the way I wanted to live?
Yeah, I would say there's scientific reasons as well. For example, the way with how a child is conceived. It's like, okay, a clot of blood. Like, okay, and like, how? I mean, I understand that women menstruate, but I mean, if you don't have this and that, you're not gonna have a baby,
Which is funny because the Quran doesn't mention the female egg, but yet Muslims use this as a miracle. Like, look, it's a miraculous explanation of embryology, like as if Muhammad couldn't have seen like an embryo of like a duck, or I don't know if they had ducks, maybe goat or something. A duck, I don't know if I thought of a duck. So that's one that came to mind. So this is what happened. You felt that Islam was false. You left Islam. You told your family you weren't going to wear the hijab. they were in shock, but you were still living with them, and then eventually you told them.
Yeah.
So you told them while
I
you were
told
still
them.
living with them, or you left home first? What happened?
No. I told them when I was living with them, and I think when I told them about the removing the hijab, I also at the same night. So it's like the two things
Oh,
on the same night. So
oh, you
like
told them.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So in this case, then they were like, oh, okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, a lot of crying. I can tell you that. For me as well, because I just felt really bad, seeing them cry. So I would say it was heartbreaking. And it's very difficult, especially for my mom. And during that time, I just remember really like hugging her just to console her. Like I definitely understand that this is something that she doesn't want, but if I don't do this, then it's just not going to happen, and I'm just going to live my life as a person who's really unhappy.
Yeah.
And I don't want that. So after I told them, the next few months really was unpleasant, like really psychologically unpleasant, and also very hard because my whole family didn't really speak to me much.
Okay.
Because my relationship with my family is actually really good. Like before then, like we would joke around, and I would talk to my dad a lot. But after that night, I would say it was difficult for them to talk to me. I suppose it comes with a shock, as well
Yeah.
as not being able to understand how to really talk about the issue, or they probably haven't had anyone else or seen any other family who had went through this sort of experience, or as an example or a reference, like how did they handle this, like a positive example, or at least some form of a way that they can be like, oh, okay, so this is something that does happen, because for them it must be like, how can she live, how can she live, that there are no other Muslims that we know of that has left.
Yeah.
So
That's true. From their perspective, being older, they don't probably go on YouTube. They don't have exposure in the schools. And you actually, our generation is so different than their generation, right? And
Mhm,
so I
mhm.
guess that's understandable. I know other ex-Muslims that, I feel like it's unfortunate they didn't tell their parents, and they're in the 40s, and some of them in the, I don't know, maybe even 50s, and they don't want to tell their parents because
Mhm.
in their situation they're able to do that. For me, I'm like you. I couldn't do that. I have to tell them because I can't live this sort of, I can't pretend to pray and pretend to do all these things. I just can't do it. And
Yeah.
it's more difficult in a Muslim society. Like in your case, it's even more difficult. In my case, like I'm in Canada, so if I eat in Ramadan, it doesn't affect me in any way. If there's no
Mhm.
hijab, I have to take off. No one's gonna notice. All those things. So it's a little bit different situation. So I understand that. So you told them there's a lot of crying because, of course, they think you're going to go to hell. That's why they're crying, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like no way. And especially after my, because I wasn't, then since I've already told them that I wasn't going to wear the hijab, I would go out without wearing the hijab
Yeah.
because I already told them. So
Yeah.
like that for me was like a relief, because then I wouldn't have to go through the hassle of putting on.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, man, leading a double life is really hard, and for those who are, stay strong, you'll get there. Okay. So in a sense where in a way my life kind of got easier, but then the psychological like not
Challenges?
really, yeah, challenges of not being able to like speak to them properly, like even though I'm talking to them, like they kind of like ignore me, or like kind of think of me as a ghost or something in the house. It's really difficult to experience that. And for my mom would say that it was especially difficult for her because she felt that she could bring me back to Islam. Especially, she was like, she's doing really extremely nice, like that I've never really like experienced before. So for me, it's just really weird to see my mom to be like extremely nice in the way that she was, like,
Yeah.
yeah, because she wanted to bring me back.
Oh, wow.
So I was just like, okay, weird. So in this case, she, like would say, oh, let's meet up with an ustaz and imam.
Of course,
Um,
they said
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. So I was just like, no, wait, yeah, like, it's good that Singapore, in a way, is a secular country, because
Yeah.
then they wouldn't like kidnap me and bring it to somewhere,
Oh,
like how some
yeah.
ex-students have. Like,
Yeah.
that is really crazy. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, when I'm hearing these stories, I'm just like, I feel really grateful that
Yeah.
I, was in Singapore
Yeah.
at the time. So in this case, I was just like I can simply just tell her like, no, like, unfortunately, I'm not going to do this. And for my mom, like, there was this one time where essentially I was, reading a bit more about FGM and stuff like this. I understood that, for in Singapore, like, okay, we call it sunat perempuan, FGM, and in Singapore it's practiced in a way where it's just a prick, like, to the clitoris. So like, for me, growing up, I didn't really think about it much, but I knew that this practice existed, but I didn't realize that I was one of the victims.
Oh,
So when I was, reading a bit more about FGM, and that it actually happens to, like, even, right now, like modern day age, and to baby girls, I was just like, okay. So I confronted my mom, like, hey, have I gone through, sunat perempuan?
yeah.
And she's like, yeah, like, she was very frank about it. Like, yeah, you did. And I was like, okay. And I asked her, like, why did she, like, allow this?
Yeah.
And she was like, giving me the reasonings of, oh, it's to avoid zina, it's to
That's
it's
great.
to, yeah, it's to, like, prevent a person to be, like, promiscuous and stuff like this. And I was just like, okay, yeah. So so that really solidified, like, my stance against Islam. Like,
Yeah.
the fact that she, like, really believed that doing this to a baby girl is something that will be useful for them in the future. Like, I was just like done, I was
Yeah.
done with like, I was like, it really solidified my stance. I was just
Yeah.
like, okay, more of this. Yeah. So
Wow. Yeah. I'm glad they don't do that in Canada. Like, where do they do this? In the hospitals?
yeah, they were doing, like, Muslim
Doctors?
clinics. So yeah. So in this case,
Jeez.
for example, there's like, from what I was researching when I was doing, like, my videos on this particular topic, was that, like, at least there are, like, 2 clinics that I can find online where they clearly state, like, okay, we can do this for you. And I was just like, what the heck is happening? Like, why is it that yeah,
Is this legal?
yeah, it is. So this is the thing, right? Singapore is such like, if it's not a third world country, it's like a first world country. GDP is high and everything, international country. So the fact that this practice is legal just blows my mind. Like, just why is it even legal?
Crazy. This is
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
there's obviously zero health benefit to this, and with male circumcision, it's not even like, it's still legal here in Canada, but it's
Mhm.
not. It's the official American. I think American Pediatric. I mean, that's the one I'm quoting because I know it, not the Canadian one. Association has advised against routine infant circumcision, male circumcision, because it's not really like there might be some sort of health benefits, but overall the harm is more than the so-called benefit. There's no real reason to to cut babies, in my opinion.
Mm.
And so it's becoming less and less common. It's definitely something that it's a leftover, a vestige of Abraham, the story of Abraham, and how he circumcised himself and all that. But yeah, I definitely think when it comes to doing something like that to control women's sexuality, it's just such a stupid thing. And even for men too, it can reduce sexuality and
Mhm.
feeling and all of that.
Mhm.
So it's
Mhm.
definitely, and I know this is an argument for cleanliness and whatever, but obviously we were made the way that makes sense. There's no need to I'm sure there's some cases where for men, maybe circumcision makes sense. Some babies, maybe there's some cases, I don't know, but to do it, routine to every single child it just doesn't make any sense. It's dogma. That's what dogma is.
Yes.
Dogma is something that you do not because it makes sense, just because you just do it because it's a belief you have, right? You hold that belief because of, appeal to some supernatural or whatever. So yeah, that's unfortunate. Like even when I found out about FGM as a Muslim sort of convert, I converted from Ismaili to Sunni, and Ismailis do it too. But like Sunnis, when I looked into it, and I found out that when I found out about FGM, not male circumcision, I was like, I couldn't believe that, because I knew FGM is a really bad thing. I knew that. And when I found out it was like sort of encouraged, there's some hadith that say that you can do it, but don't do too much or something. And I know it's all over the Muslim countries, they do FGM. I was like, I can't believe this is Islamic. This doesn't make sense to me. And it was one of those, there's very few examples, but this was one example where as a Muslim, I had cognitive dissonance, and I'm like, this can't be part of Islam. And I'm just like, nah, it must be weak, or must be. And because I was in Canada, I was able to hold that position because I didn't know anyone that has been through this. I know in Canada, no one does it. So I'm like, yeah, it's nothing to do with Islam. I'm like, yeah, it's privileged Muslim living in the West that knows nothing about what's going on to young women in the Muslim world. And of course, it's women that do it, right? It's the moms.
Yeah. Like, I think, for example, in Malaysia, Indonesia, in Singapore, it's not really about like honor in some like countries. For example, I believe in Africa, especially in Muslims who are living there, it's tied in with like honor of the family, something like this. But in the Asian like region, it's mostly about like following the doctrine, and just also because of not being promiscuous or not letting the woman be promiscuous, and usually this is done by female doctors, and I would say in terms of like, I'm not sure like how much a man can influence the decision, but like for me, I would say like the woman is usually the one that has like the final say in terms of this. Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah,
that is crazy. And so can you explain why do they say this controls promiscuity? What's the thinking behind that?
I think the thinking about it is essentially like to prevent like sex before marriage. Yeah, like essentially that's like the main thing, right?
What's the connection between those two things, like FGM and sex before marriage? I mean, you could still
have like as in what they want is to make sure like, okay, if this girl who grows up into a woman doesn't really like feel the need to, for example, masturbate or whatever, like, and have like that sexual need, then they would not be so prone to, I suppose, look for a partner or a person that could go further, right?
So it goes back to the honor thing as well in some cultures. The woman's vagina is seen as the place where the family's honor resides, which is so ridiculous. Of course, the man can go and do whatever he wants.
Yeah,
it's funny. It's like, okay, so weird, right? It's so messed up. These are the type of ideas we want to fight, and this is why talking to you. Do you have any videos on FGM on your channel?
Oh yeah, I have a series. I talked to this was like one of my first few series. So my editing was a bit shit back then. Just letting you guys know if you guys go there to watch that FGM series. I had an interview with a very prominent anti-FGM speaker. If you scroll down, then you'll be able to see it there it is. FGM in developed countries.
Yeah.
So I do talk about Singapore in depth, as well as the Muslim reaction about when a non-Muslim DJ actually posted on her Facebook like, hey, why is this happening in Singapore? And like a lot of backlash like happened to her from Muslims, and I was just like, this should be covered and this should be talked about in Singapore, because it's still legal. And I do talk to the Filza, who is the anti-FGM spokesperson. she's really amazing woman. She really talks about this, and she promotes like women's rights, as well as making sure that domestic abuse, like the implications of that. She helps women who are in this sort of like positions to talk about it with them, and to help them get into a better headspace. And to eventually get out of such situations. So she's just an amazing woman, Filza Sumartono. And in the interview, I spoke to her, and she gave me a lot of facts. And the thing is, it's really interesting, is that because in Singapore you have a lot of races, so you have like Chinese, you have Malays, Indians, then you have like Caucasians and whoever else. So in Singapore, you have the Malay Muslims, which is usually the majority of the Muslim community, and then you do have Indian Muslims. And what we've seen is that Indian Muslims don't do this practice, which to me really is interesting to understand.
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, for me it was like, what, like this is interesting to understand, because they don't do it, and this other branch does it. So I was just like, interesting. I believe the Indian Muslims in Singapore follow Hanafi
School of thought.
school. Yeah. So that's probably one of the reasons why they do this. Yeah.
So wow, that was I guess disappointing to find out. So you found out about that. You talked to your mom. Did your relationship with them ever improve, or is it still like you had to leave the country? So in your coming out video, why I left Islam, you were actually crying. You started crying actually. And so what happened there? Like, why were you crying? And were you scared about leaving the country, or were you scared about what would happen when you came out publicly? What was going on?
Yeah. In Singapore, I would say, like, if you were to come out, it's not like a dangerous thing to do, like in some other Muslim countries, where, for example, if you are in Indonesia and you're in the Aceh, which is a part of Indonesia where they do Sharia law, then you'll probably be killed there. So in Singapore, it's quite safe to come out. The reason why
you'd be killed, you mean by like the government, or by like vigilantes?
Well, they have the Sharia law.
So the government would actually arrest you.
In that region.
Aceh, right?
Aceh, yeah. And they do lashings there, so it's like pretty crazy, I would say. But in Singapore, if you do come out, yay! Yeah, I'm just reading the
I want to say one thing before you continue, because I actually forgot. I wrote it down and I forgot to. I wanted to mention that I just think that as part of the work that I'm doing, I think it's important to highlight that you were able to leave Islam and your family did not actually hurt you in any ways. And I want to make that clear, because there's this idea, and I think we do a disservice to a movement when we make it sound like everyone that leaves Islam is going to be killed. I think we need to not over exaggerate that, because we start to sound like drama queens. And there's people out there that use this in order to sort of like, they want immigration, for example. And I always tell people that if you want to immigrate, if you want to leave the country, work hard, build some skills, leave on your merit. Don't leave as a refugee. Now, of course, there is situations like this guy I spoke to in Kenya by the name of Hassan. That's not his real name, but he tried to hide his apostasy. He was outed by a family member that exposed him, and he got almost killed. People hit him with a rock twice. He was like literally almost killed, and he's lying to them. He said, I'm Muslim now. Nobody cares what he says. They want to kill him. He's a legitimate situation where he needs to leave the country. And there's other people, they go out of their way to sort of create a problem for themselves so then they can leave the country, and they're kind of like, nobody wants to kill them, but they're like trying to provoke a situation. And it's not, obviously you should never be killed. Nobody is justifying that, but we should also be fair and say that there is a situation as well where you are able to leave Islam and your family will not like it, but they're not going to hurt you. And thankfully, I think as time goes by, there's more and more situations like that. I'm really happy to hear that in your case, your mom was nice to you, and that's how Muslims should be, actually. You should try to be nice, not like hurt people for leaving Islam, because that's not going to help, right? That's not going to convince people to come back.
That's not like, what, like, I'm going to leave this place, like, no way, but for me, no one hurt me, thank goodness. And it's the most basic thing to do, not to hurt your own family member,
Yeah.
or for the community not to hurt a person, right? So
yeah, it just shows you how twisted the religious teachings are, that it can actually make a person want to harm their own family member. Like the most powerful desire that all us humans have, and I know I'm a parent, is to protect your children even more than yourself, because we've evolved to want to survive and pass on our genes. Our entire existence is dependent on the on this concept that if I didn't want to live and I didn't want to make a woman pregnant and spread my genes, there would be no human race. So this is one of the most powerful desire, that people would jump in front of trains to save their kids. I mean, frankly speaking, that's how we are. I mean, I didn't choose that. That's just the way I am. Like, I would do that. I would take a bullet for my kids. But somehow this religious doctrine is so crazy that it's able to overpower that instinct that is so powerful. It's just so twisted. Like it's so twisted that it can do that. It's overriding millions of years of evolutionary programming, which is insane, right? So the fact that that can happen is it's shocking, but the fact that it didn't happen, I'm glad it didn't happen. That people's humanity is still there. Your parents' humanity. My parents, of course, like I said, they're very liberal, so there's not even a question of that. The parental instinct is obviously way more powerful than the religious sentiment, but it's unfortunate it can get that bad. So what happened next? Like, so you told your parents. Why did you have to leave the country? Did you have to leave the country, or you just wanted to?
I wanted to, because I felt it's like I didn't want to live with my family, because it was just really heartbreaking to like be a ghost. Like they would really, like, not talk to me, even if like I'm just passing by or whatever. It just felt really extremely lonely, and you know how loneliness can it does penetrate, and you have a lot of like mental instability when you have sort of like situation. So for me, I felt like this is not a good situation. I need to get out, because if I go through this like in a prolonged time period, then how am I supposed to live the way that I want to live? So in this sense, I decided to leave the country. So I traveled to multiple places. For example, Thailand, went to Hong Kong as well. So I was based in Thailand, and then after I moved around, like traveling. And then I went on to other like countries, for example, to Europe. And yeah, that's how my life has been. Yeah. So, but throughout, I like, in the beginning stages, keeping contact with family was something that we do have like a family WhatsApp group, so that's really nice. Like I'm still part of it. So it's really good to see like what's happening and stuff like this. But sometimes I do like for example like send like a reply to something, or to bring up a topic, and there's just no replies. So you're like totally ignored even in the chat. So you're like, okay, like there's really nothing you can do if the other party doesn't want that. So
they don't know how to cope with this. You leaving Islam. I have a little bit of that experience, not as much as you, but like I was really close to one of my uncles, and he was really nice uncle, and he was one of the more religious ones in the family. And I actually told him, funny thing, I told him not to buy a house on mortgage and this and that. It's so funny. I said, no, it's haram. You need to have clean and use this Islamic mortgage, which is twice as expensive. And but after I left Islam, it's just very awkward with him, the other uncle that's still in Kenya. They don't know what to say to me. They don't know how to. Thankfully, my dad wasn't like that. My mom's not like that. So they're able to communicate with me and still keep the relationship. And sometimes over time, those of you who are in that situation, I'm glad you brought it up for other people as well. Things do improve over time. Sometimes they'll come to a point where they accept what happened, and they're able to cope with it and move on. But it sucks, to be in that situation. For me, my entire circle of friends were Muslim, all of them. None of them, I don't talk to any of them anymore, because I can't, so I do feel that I understand that pain. And thankfully you're younger and you can build new, and not even me, I'm not that old, but but you can build a new circle of friends, right? You can build new friendships, you can build a relationship, you can set up your life the way you want to. How do you, like, you don't have to answer this, but like, how do you survive financially then if your parents are not supporting you anymore and you're moving around? And you can talk about it if you want to. If you don't want to,
Yeah. For me, I do like transcribing. This is something I do.
oh, so you work
Yeah,
online then?
I work online.
Oh,
As well as what else do I do? Oh yeah, I also do English teaching as well, to international students. So sometimes from Russia. It's really actually, this is a really good way to like see the world in other people's like lenses, because when you're talking to them and you know like teaching them English, you essentially what I do is that I let them talk and I'll correct their
yeah.
English, and at the same time I'll ask them the questions that really intrigues, like that is intriguing to me in regards to their country and what they think about certain things.
Oh,
So sometimes I'll do like the same question but for like 5 people from different regions of the world, and you get such different answers, and it's just amazing. And sometimes you get very similar answers. So that's also like quite interesting in the sense where you guys are all from different parts of the world, but you guys are thinking the same thing. So it's like, what? Wow, yeah. So that's what I do. Other than this, what else? I mean, I do YouTube, but that doesn't make me money. I don't make
okay.
any money from it at all. Actually, it takes away money.
Oh, maybe at some point you can monetize it and make some money on that though.
I don't know, like YouTube's algorithm is, especially for my content, that's a
Yeah.
bit,
Oh,
edgy in a way.
controversial. Edgy.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure it's difficult for me to monetize it. So yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Well, you never know.
And
You definitely have that skill set, and you definitely have the editing skill set. You definitely have documentary making. All of those things, I think, are very valuable skills to have. I'm trying to teach my kids to do editing as well.
oh my
So,
God. So,
let's because we've been going on for a long time. Let's continue a little bit more, and then we'll end it off on
mhm.
that. So you wanted to leave the country and travel. Did you find that seeing other cultures made you feel more comfortable with your decision to leave Islam? Or because I think a lot of times when you're living in one country and all you see is that, your perspective can be kind of more narrow, but when you travel you get to see more countries and you get to see the issues that exist in other countries as well. Do you
Mhm.
find that broadened your perspective in terms of how you see religion and
I
Islam?
think I think not so much in a way, like, because Singapore is quite multicultural already, so
Oh yeah.
you're always seeing like other religions anyway. So for example, there's like the 7th lunar month where, for example, the Buddhist people, or Chinese majority in Singapore, who are practicing, what they would do is that during this month is that it's called like the what 7 lunar month, something about like ghosts or something like this. So
Okay.
essentially,
Yeah.
what happens in this month in their belief is that the gates of hell will open, so that all the spirits and souls inside there will essentially, they are able to roam the Middle Earth, and they are able to check out like what's happening, what's going down in this world, and see their family and stuff like this. So during this month, what people would do is that they would, they would buy, in this religion culture, they would buy like paper that is like hell money in this sense. So they will burn this hell money, and whatever you burn, essentially this will go to wherever the people who they are trying to get this gift to.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hungry Ghost Festival. Sorry,
Yeah.
I totally forgot for some reason. Yeah, so this is called the Hungry Ghost Festival, and during this month you also see, for example, like performances. So during this like maybe it's a small tent, and there's like a platform, like a stage,
Mhm.
and there will be like performances. So they would put out chairs, like the red plastic chairs, and at the back there'll be like normal people, but at the front it's totally empty. They're leaving it for the ghosts, the souls and
Yeah.
everything. So for me, like seeing this, another culture, like for me, it's quite
Oh.
normal, So I get a mix of understanding of Hinduism, especially if you go to like a little India.
Oh yeah.
And you also like you see Sikhs, for example, as well. So you learn that as well in Singapore. But
Wow.
so it's quite multicultural. Race or racism is a different topic, so I'm not going to go into that because it is quite hot right there in Singapore.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to talk about that. So yeah, for me, in terms of traveling, I would say that going to Europe was a different experience.
Oh yeah.
The reason being is that, like, I'm very familiar with Asia, like totally, it's not something that's totally bizarre or something that is away from the roots, for example. But when I was growing up, my parents would be telling me like something like, especially if it's, on the television, they were talking about, oh, look at all these white people, like, and talking smack about essentially the people who are either European or American. So when I went to Europe, there were these like ideas of a white person being greater than a local person. This is like the mindset of how it is in Asia, especially, for example, in Thailand, where this like being white is something that is important, or being fair skinned is something that's important. So for me, when I went to Europe, I was like, yeah, well, they're just like normal people. Like there's nothing special about them. Why are we even like bringing this up to like the children? Why are we even talking about white people as if they're like some sort of powerful or like
something special, like
something
it's
special.
just a different color. Sorry, my camera died there. So yeah, if my camera gets disconnected, it's because it's overheating. I'm still here. So so definitely living in a multicultural society, I think, is very advantageous to Muslims and non-Muslims, everybody, because you get to see that there's more than one religion, and you get to have empathy for other people, and to see that there's different cultures and all of these different belief systems makes you actually sometimes realize that my own belief system is nothing special, because look, these guys are doing different things, whereas sometimes when you're born into a certain system, you don't realize that, you think this is the only possibility. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not homogeneous. Like in, mostly Muslim majority countries. For example, in Indonesia, I believe it's more Muslim majority. I mean, there are like Christians, but right now, I mean, in the past, Indonesia has been quite like open-minded, and they're more of like, oh yes, it's Indonesian. It's not like, oh, it's a Muslim Indonesian country. But right now, it's more going towards like the Islamic side, I would say.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it can be a bit dangerous, especially
becoming more Islamicized, you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh wow. And it just means it's more important for people like you and others to come out and to show that you can leave Islam. How's your life now? Just so we can finish up, because I don't know how much time you have left. How's your life now that you left Islam? Obviously, there's this very painful period of coming out. You told everybody, you made a video on your channel, even though your channel's not about that, but you did, authentically come out and say what you believe. How's your life now that you've left Islam? Your family, like you've told us that it's difficult because there's a bit of awkwardness, there's a bit of coldness over there. But other than that, how is your life now?
I would say it's great. Like, I mean, other than this COVID situation, I love traveling, so this is like, but my life, I would say, has been pretty hectic for the past few months. But as in, like from what was it? When was I there? When I was in Portugal, essentially, like that time period was really, really hectic. And I'm not sure if I'm going to make a video on it, but I did make a video of what I've seen in Portugal, which is in regards to the China's influences on Portugal. And for me, I would say like my life after living in Islam is better because I can now focus on things that I truly care about. Especially towards other people. Like someone was saying something about the CCP, and I just want to like point out something. Where is it? Oh,
CCP
here.
is imploding something.
CCP is essentially the Chinese Communist Party, and it says over here, this person, Gwyn Paladin, is saying, "Why are we politically correct, guys? Why not love the solutions of CCP? Seriously, in Mimi's world, it's their only, their way only. Wake up, guys." I would, just want to point out that I'm an ex-Muslim, and I believe that you would agree with this. Even though we are ex-Muslims, we do not tolerate any.
So before you answer, what this guy is saying is he's saying we should put the Muslims in camps. That's what he's saying, right? Yeah. So go ahead. Now you can explain why that's bad.
So, we don't tolerate such things. We don't tolerate putting Muslims in camps. This is something that's inhumane. It's against a human right. It's the similar thing to what happened with the Jews. We don't want such things to be happening again because they are human. Why do I don't believe in putting anyone in a camp or to make them work, make them to sterilize a woman because of their faith. This is something that is really horrible. I find it really disgusting, and I really hate it. And the fact that like some people do say this, that if you're an ex-Muslim, why don't you agree to such solutions? No, that's not who we are. Like, this is what I'm saying. Yeah. This is not what being an ex-Muslim is.
I'm pretty sure. I have a feeling that. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. No.
I was just saying I have a strong feeling this person is a never Mus and was never an ex-Muslim, is not someone that has Muslim family members, because it's very rare to find someone so far right among ex-Muslims, because we have Muslim family members. And I mean, it'd be very strange for you to want to like treat your own family members like this. Honestly, Gwyn Paladin, you're a disgusting piece of shit. Sorry, I just gotta say it. That's what you are. You're a disgusting piece of shit. What China is doing is wrong, period. I don't care how much you hate Islam.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with it. At the end of the day, it has nothing to do with Islam. It's them suppressing that ethnic minority. Islam is just part of the issue. I think it's not, because there's Muslims in China, mainland China, and they don't have problems like this. It's that specific separatist sort of issue that's going on where they want to separate, they want to be their own country, whatever. And China also has issues with Tibet, right? China has also
Mongolia.
and Mongo, and I don't even really know the whole thing. And those of you who want to know more about this, definitely subscribe to Fatally Honest's channel, Rose's channel. And that comes to another point. I'm just honestly, I think everything I stand for is against what this guy is saying. And I think I made that very, very clear for anyone that subscribes here. It's not about political correctness. It's about, this is just evil what you're saying. Like you're basically being a Nazi here. Like, basically, this is Nazism. This is like straight up Nazism. Sorry. So back to the positivity. You mentioned something to me before we started talking, which is, I think, very important. Your channel is not an ex-Muslim channel, and ex-Muslim is not what you are, is not the entirety of who you are. You are so much more than that. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So in terms of this, I don't believe in like labeling my whole entire personality as an ex-Muslim. Like, I don't think any ex-Muslim wants to be labeled that way either, because there's so much more than that. Your life does not revolve around Islam after you're an ex-Muslim, though you do want to talk about it because you want to let other people know your story, let them be, understand like, hey, if you're going through the same experience, you're actually able to connect with me and understand what is happening. You're not alone. So this is why people do talk about the stories as an ex-Muslim. As in terms of my identity, I'm more than an ex-Muslim, and I would say that I'm very pro human rights. It's very clear. I'm also a person who likes to understand the deeper parts of humanity, especially people who, for example, I do have like a video about a gigolo who does his work, and who does for example, gay for pay. This is something that he does as a work. And I talked to him about it. I want to know more. Why does he do it? Is it for the money? Like, how does he, coincide that world, and how does he traverse, like, not being able to even talk about it, because it's something that no one will, people will be like interested in him, but he doesn't want that. He wants to talk to people, to let people share their stories with him. And my platform is, Faithfully Honest, is a platform where I also do talk about very important things. For example, not being able to get divorced in Philippines. Like, that's really insane. That's like another form of religious oppression, I would say. That's, intertwined into the political system.
Is that because of Christianity?
They're extremely Catholic there.
Yeah.
So that's one of the main reasons. Birth control also was an issue in Philippines, where women just could not get any. And these are the main, issues that I want to speak on my channel, because I feel that there's not a lot of coverage on it. Or, when people do talk about such things, for example, if I'm bringing it up in like a conversation, sometimes it's just too much information to take in, which is why I do my videos in the format that they are, to make it simpler for a person to understand, like, okay, so this happening, this and this and that, so they understand like what is the situation in regards to what's happening in their world. And I've gotten that a lot of Filipinos actually, I've gotten some positive responses on that, because they feel that no one is listening. It's when a Western person thinks about Philippines, they don't really think of it as a big country, but it has how many billion of people?
Are you Filipina? So people asking ethnic.
Oh no, I'm Singaporean. Malay Singaporean. Yeah.
Okay.
So in 2018, the Philippines has like 106.7 million people, and that is also due to, majority of these people are under like the poverty line, as well, because people just have babies all the time because of the Catholic, not being able to do abortions and stuff. So that is very difficult. I also have another video about women's rights in Poland, which is still ongoing right now. So, all of these topics I feel are very, very important, which is why I talk about it on the channel.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's a nice mesh of things that I feel is important. So
yeah, and absolutely. I mean, I think this is so important to highlight, that we ex-Muslims were not just ex-Muslims. Sometimes people see someone like me who is an activist and spends a lot of time talking about ex-Muslim issues. They don't realize that the majority of ex-Muslims don't talk about ex-Muslim issues. They leave Islam and they do other things, and that's how it should be. We want to make it so that leaving Islam becomes a non-issue. This conversation that we're having right now, me and you, what both of us would love to see is a world where we don't have conversations like this, because it's like, okay, I left Islam. Okay, you left Islam. Okay, I became Christian, or I became Hindu, or I'm not Muslim, or I'm atheist. So nobody cares. It's like, yeah, okay, that's interesting, but we don't need to make a video on how difficult it was, how your family no longer talks to you, how people are kicked out of the home, or abused, or killed, or executed. We don't want that. We don't want to talk about these things. We're looking for a world where this becomes a non-issue, but we can never just take it for granted. I think at this point we have to keep talking about these things. Someone needs to keep doing it, which is why I'm doing it. I'm so glad that you came out and you shared your story. This is a part of your journey as well, and you are thankfully in a safe place, a safe country, and I think with time your family relationship will improve. A lot of times I find when you have kids, then your parents will, I've heard from many people that their parents, softened up. They want to see their grandkids, and things can change. The dynamics can change over time. Or over time, they just realize that nothing they're going to do is going to change your mind. And so they accept it, and I hope that's what will happen with you as well.
Yeah, I would hope so too. You know what? If you can't beat it, join it. Like, as embracing like the fact that I'm an ex-Muslim. I mean, I'm not expecting them to leave Islam. Yeah.
Obviously, yeah, and that's an important part too, that we're not expecting other people to actually leave Islam. That's not the goal necessarily. The goal is to raise awareness, to allow people to make their own choices, and if they want to be Muslim, they can be Muslim, and if they don't want to be Muslim, they don't have to be. They cannot be Muslim. That's what we want. That's the type of world that we want, right?
Yep. I agree 100%. People should be able to make their own choices, really.
Absolutely. So just to close off then, before I give you a chance to make any sort of final comments you want to share, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and even joining below. Click join now, and you can support me for a small amount of money that'll help me to continue growing the channel and to do this maybe full-time one day. Also, there's Patreon if you'd like to support me financially from that platform. That's also very helpful. You'll get early access to my videos. Some of my videos will be posted early, and of course you will get my eternal gratitude. Guiding someone away from Islam is better than 10 camels, and that's a hadith you can quote me on. Any final words, Rose, you want to share? Any final comments, any final thoughts, any advice to other people in the closet that want to come out or are scared to come out, tell their family? What would you advise them?
I would say that take baby steps. This is a very difficult process. Take your time. If you don't have time, reach out to someone who might be able to help you out. Okay, this is very important, especially when if you feel alone, especially when you're in a community that is very like you don't have another person who you can reach out to. Do reach out to organizations that are around on the internet as well. Their advice will be very helpful for you as well. If there's not around, if there's not a physical person around you, that idea and that ability to speak to someone who understands and has probably gone through the similar thing as you have will help you in that mental state. This is very important. I cannot stress it enough. Once you are able to leave your family or able to tell your family about your decision, then take it from there step by step, really. That's pretty much it from me.
That's beautiful advice. Thank you so much, Rose. Hopefully we can do this again at some point. And I hope people do check out your channel and subscribe to your channel. And you're doing some interesting content there. And definitely, I think you can make money on your channel at some point. Even though it's very controversial content, I think there's either maybe Patreon or something else. But the documentary skills are useful. Maybe you'll make a documentary on ex-Muslims. Who knows?
Oh yeah, actually that would be really interesting to do. I would definitely like to do that actually, but not right now because of the current pandemic situation.
Absolutely. And so this has been a great conversation. Thank you everyone for joining us. Episode 64 of the Abdullah Samir podcast. And just if you don't know, it's available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. You can subscribe there and also be notified. And there's also obviously no ads on there, and it's not monetized in any way. So it's just for your own convenience. If you find it difficult to watch on YouTube, obviously YouTube is my main platform, and that's where I have the most subscribers. But just to make it easier for other people, I've set this up. So please do subscribe there. And if I see people watching and listening on there, I will continue uploading it on there. So please do to check that out as well. Thank you, those, and thanks everyone. And we'll see you again.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Bye.